Now, we want to go and we want to write our first user-defined function. We want to go ahead and write our user-defined function that is going to determine the day name of a particular date. And this is the function that we're going to write. Now, what we need to do in order to be able to do this is that we need to access that Visual Basic for Applications editor. Now, there are 3 different ways that you can do this. You can use the computer keyboard shortcut Alt-11, which will pop up the editor for you. Okay, right here. You can access it by coming over to your developer toolbar and clicking the Visual Basic button. That'll also bring it up. But usually the way I end up interacting with this is going to be down here with our tab for the name of the worksheet. We're going to right click on this and we're going to go ahead and select View Code. And that, whatever way you choose to do, is ultimately going to open up our Visual Basic for Applications editor. Sometimes this is referred to as an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. Okay. Now, this integrated development environment, IDE, is going to contain all the features and functions and tools and all the things that I need to use to create not only a user-defined function inside of Excel, but also a macro. So if you're looking to, for example, get really sophisticated and really good with macro design, you're going to need to get really familiar with this application. This is how and where we do that writing of code. Now, this sample file already has this data set up here, and we can actually come on over here. If we look on our left-hand side, we'll see a listing of our open workbooks as well as other projects and other add-ins that have been enabled. And if we scroll down here to our hows and whys of user-defined functions, you'll see we have a modules listing here. If we click inside of module 1, we are going to see a listing of all the code for the function that we are writing. Okay, and so here is our first function for what we're going to choose to do. Okay, and so we're going to write this together, and I'm going to explain this function to you in depth. Okay, and there's some other ones in here too. So if you download the sample file and you'd like to, try out some of these, you certainly can. So there's a function here to count words in a specific cell. There's a function here for those of you who are reporting on fiscal year. You know how frustrating it can be trying to determine fiscal year when everything in Excel is calendar year. Well, guess what? I've given you a user-defined function that will do that automatically. Okay, and there's also some other functions up here to determine taxable tax owed for a particular tax year based off of filing status. So we've got one for married filing joint, married filing separate, single, head of household. There's some samples inside of that Excel workbook that'll work well. Now, our formulas, we're going to go ahead and write these into a separate module here just so you can kind of see them written hand by hand, one by one. Okay, and generally what we would end up doing if we were in a brand new clean workbook is that we would either go to our personal XLSB workbook, okay, or we'd open up a new macro enabled workbook, and then we would choose insert, and then we would choose module, okay? And in doing so, it's going to go ahead and give us a module that we can choose to write our formula. Alrighty, now I'm going to do my best to go slow. I'll do my best to zoom in so you can kind of see how each of these function lines are written. But what I'm going to go ahead and show you is writing that function day name in order from start to finish. Now, I personally recommend every time that you're going to get started with writing a function, you include comments that talk about when you wrote that specific code, what that code is supposed to do, the date, things that are going to be relevant later on. I will tell you, undocumented code is very difficult to be able to navigate, understand, learn from, and correct. Do yourself a favor by writing some comments. Now, Excel comments are very simple. All we have to do is just use a simple apostrophe, and you'll see as I start to write these functions, I will include comments as I'm writing them so that people, myself, a colleague later on would get a sense of whatever the heck I was trying to do. And so if they're trying to debug it, they're trying to fix it, writing some comments about what we've done will be very helpful. Now, to get started with our function, we're literally going to write the word function like this, okay? This tells Excel that whatever I'm going to do after this, I want it to be a function inside of the application. And I'm going to go ahead and hit space. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to give this function a name, and this would be whatever the name of the function we choose to use inside of Excel. So when we do the equals function name, this would be whatever we would call that particular function. Okay, so if we wanted to call it day number, day name, day of the week, something of that nature, as long as it doesn't conflict with an existing function inside of Excel, we're good to go. And so we're going to go ahead and call this one day name like this, so I can follow along with the examples that I provided. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to tell Excel whether or not this function also includes any arguments. Okay, so arguments are things that we use inside of Excel formulas all the time. So for example, VLOOKUP takes 4 arguments: what you're looking up, what you're looking up to, what you want back, and then whether or not to do an approximate or an exact match. Okay, subtotal takes 2 arguments: function number, and then wherever you're choosing to do that operation. Well, day name is going to take a single argument, and that single argument is going to be and we're going to call that single argument date number. Okay. So we'll type in date number here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a closing bracket like this, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, you notice as soon as I hit enter, 2 things happen. Okay. The first thing that happened is that function turned blue. What's nice about Visual Basic for Applications, this editor, as well as many other sophisticated editors like it, it will highlight specific keywords and syntax language so that we get them correct. Okay, so it tells us that we are in fact using a function, and because it turns that word blue, it's a reserved keyword. Likewise, you'll notice at the end it added the term and function, and so the function is everything between the word function and end function. Now over here, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves a tab. Tab will give us some space. Ideally, when we're working with user-defined functions, having some visual separation between elements can be quite helpful in debugging and understanding what we're doing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to declare another variable, and we're going to say day number. Okay, and notice this is not the exact same thing up here. We have essentially 3 variables now: the name of the function, the argument, and now we're declaring another one. So the day number is going to be equal to the weekday function of the date number argument. Okay, and notice when I was in this, let me just go back up a little bit here. Notice that when I write an existing function inside of Excel, like we are here, like weekday, okay, we can use existing Excel functions inside of our UDF, okay? And so what we're going to do here is weekday, we're going to run the weekday function on the date number argument. So in a nutshell, we're setting the variable of day number equal to the function result of the weekday function against the date number argument provided. Now, the weekday function, if you're not familiar with it, it does a very simple thing. It returns a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, or a 7. And Sunday returns a 1, Monday returns a 2, so on and so forth. And so what we're saying is we're going to pass in a date. Okay, then we're going to take in that date, and we're going to run the weekday function, and we're going to get a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, or something else back from it. All right. So that's what the first part of this function does. And functions run top to bottom. So that is going to run first, and then it's going to run through everything else. Now, let's go ahead and write ourselves a little comment here. And let's say this UDF is used to return the day name for a particular date. Okay, we're going to hit enter. Notice when I hit enter here, notice that comment turns green. Comments are always green, and for Visual Basic for Applications, they're best indicated with by a apostrophe. So if your comment is not green, then you know that you didn't add that apostrophe, and Excel is going to treat whatever you write there as part of the program. Okay, if it's commented like this, it gets ignored by default. Okay, comments are never in part of the runtime execution of the actual formula. It's just there for the benefit of the person. Now, I will typically put my name in here, so I'm going to say SNY, and we're going to go ahead and say the date 03/02/21, and we've added a nice comment. So if somebody after the fact is like, who the heck wrote this? Well, now they know it would be me, and if it's a small enough organization, hopefully they'd be able to interpret my initials, and if not, they can go ahead and, I guess, Google it. Now, the next part of this is going to be the meat of the application. What we're going to do here is we're going to write a select statement. Now, a select statement inside of Excel inside of a user-defined function, and a case statement is kind of like a big if, for lack of a better way of saying it, or a switch or a choice or something like that. And so we're going to say, oops, let's take off caps lock here. We're going to go ahead and say select case. Okay, case basically is like again, that lookup, that choice. Okay, and we're going to look at our new variable that we declared, day number. We're going to say day number like this. Okay, now what we're going to do, and notice when I hit enter there, it turns blue again. Okay, what we're going to do here is now we're going to run through the different cases. Okay, well, what happens if it is 1? Well, in case scenario 1, what I would want it to return back is Sunday. Okay, so we're going to say day name equals Sunday. Now, real quick, running through this. Okay, we pass in a calendar date to this formula. That calendar date, the date of whatever it is, okay, gets the weekday function. That's going to return back a 1 to a 7. And then down here, we're running through the different cases. So if it's returning back a 1, we'll return back Sunday. If it, for example, returns back a 2, set day name equal to Monday. Okay. If it's a 3, set day name equal to Tuesday, so on and so forth. I'm just going to go ahead and I think we can all hope I know my days of the week now. And I'll just go ahead and paste these in here just to make it a little bit easier. Now, what we've done here is we've given it every possible scenario. And so again, this isn't intended to be comprehensive in the sense of like how powerful UDFs are, but just to kind of give you a general sense of how they function. And so with this, we give it a specific calendar date. And from that calendar date, we're able to determine whatever the day name of the week might be. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to come on over here and we're going to say end select, so that it knows that select statement is over. And we have now officially written our function. Okay. So let's go ahead and switch back over here to Excel. And let's go ahead and take a look at how that formula executes. Okay. So with this, we've got our day name equals C4. And now up here, if we change this from 11/14/2027, okay, we would see that that is a Sunday, for example. And let's go ahead and put in 03/02/21. We'll see, oops, give me 1 second here. Let me just clean up my code a little bit because I only want to run one formula here. Let's try that one more time. We see that we in fact get our Tuesday. Okay. Reason I got that error was because I had 2 formulas named day name. Okay. So remember, you can only have the name has to be unique inside the application. Okay. So if we put in tomorrow, for example, we'll put in 03/03/21, we will see we get a Wednesday. Let's see what Christmas might be this year. So we'll say 12/25/21. Christmas is on a Saturday this year. All right. That's great. Let's see what New Year's of next year. 01/01/22. Well, again, that would be a Saturday, so we know our functions are correct. But what we've done here is we've created something from nothing. We've created the ability to be able to do a calculation that would otherwise be out of the reach of other Excel users.